Hey YouTube, I'm back with another set of videos I'm going to be doing over the next couple of days here. So now I'm going to actually focus on Aqua Force. I built all the decks from Incessant Waves and updated the old decks that I had. So uh, each one of them are here. We're going to be doing, let's just do the main one today, since it's like the one that's probably the most anticipated one. Although there's probably people wondering about my take on Ripples and other stuff like Maelstrom. So today we'll be doing the Blue Wave. So Blue Waves are probably the premier deck. They're probably not the most OP or the best one, but it's still relatively competitive. It's relatively fun. It revives the tetra-drive playstyle where the Vanguard swings second as opposed to fourth. And this was really the deck, in my opinion. The tetra-drive build was the one that really could get away without running stand triggers in Aqua Force in order for it to be able to be very consistent. So now Blue Wave is a thing as a subclan, and Anger Boil. Anger Boil is basically very similar to Blaster Dark Diablo in the sense that his on-stride skill works only with a specific stride unit. In this case, Tetra Boil Dragon, or Blue Wave Martial Dragon, Tetra Boil Dragon. So he works really well with that stride unit specifically, unlike Thavas and a normal GB2 based Vanguard. But he's still really good. His GB2 skill is surprisingly good. So sometimes what I found is that I end up striding into Lambros first. On some games, I'll do that just to get the GB2 skill. It really depends on the field setup and what the opponent has at the time. But otherwise, it may be Lambros as first stride, then you go into Tetra Boil second and third, and then try to close the game out from there. But yeah, 4 of him. And then the other grade 3 is the Blue Wave Dragon, Tetra Drive Dragon. He's still pretty decent. Only downside about him is in the current meta with all the power creep now, the decrease in costs for effects. Counterblast 2 is still very hefty, so that is a big drawback to this guy. Other than that, he's still a decent backup Vanguard. Nothing much to say about him. He's been around for a while now. He came out with CBD in Catastrophic Outbreak. He made Transcore one of the best break rides. Otherwise, Transcore by itself isn't really all that great. But yeah, Tetra Drive is a backup. He's limit break, so he's immune to ripple rushing, and he's immune to grade people that are purposely grade locking themselves at 2. So you can't stride. You can just ride this guy instead and just win that way. So those are the grade 3s. Very self-explanatory. Very just generic stuff. For the grade 2, I'm running 4 Tile Assault. Tile Assault has always been with Tetra Drive until the day when I took apart Tetra Drive to build Tetra Burst, which is a Blue Storm, which is completely different. But yeah, Tile Assault, very, very good. Enables the 4th battle. And just really good card overall. Next, 4 Blue Wave Marine General Foivos. Foivo, I don't know how to say his name, but anyway, this guy is basically like the Blue Wave Tile Assault, or the Blue Wave Magnum Assault. That's the way I think of him. So what he does on the 3rd battle, when he attacks the Vanguard, so they introduced the Wave, which is basically like the way you keep track of the number of battles. Wave has always existed with Aqua Force. It's just now it has a keyword. So on the 3rd battle, when he attacks the Vanguard, you can counterblast 1, assuming you have a Vanguard with Blue Wave in the name. Otherwise, you can't use that effect. So he only works exclusively with these 2 guys, or Blue Waves. So you can counterblast 1, and he'll get 2k, so that makes him 11 when he swings, so he can hit the Vanguard potentially without a booster, unless it's a cross ride or something. And then at the end of the turn, he stands. Or at the end of that battle, he stands, and he maintains that 2k. A lot of people forget that, or actually, yeah, he gets 2k till the end of the turn, and at the end of the battle, he stands. So he activates this effect, he can swing for 11 by himself, and then he restand, then he can swing with the booster. So, really good card. Very complements the blue waves and works really well with Tile Assault as another way to get 4th battle, or to get 4 attacks. So that's 8 copies that'll help enable 4 battle already. Next, and I said this card would stick around when I was opening those boxes, but Tier 9 Valeria. Tier 9 Valeria, there are new cards. There is a new card like this that came out. It's a common. I can't remember the name. But the reason why she's in here compared to that other card, which does the same thing as her, except it's a GB1 restricted, and it requires, I think it only works on rear guard. Yeah, that would make sense. But the reason why she's in here is, first of all, her having to hit on 4th or more, so wave 4 or more is okay in this deck, mainly because of the way the Vanguard attacks on the stride turns. It's always going to attack 2nd and then 5th, so she can always be the 4th one to attack if you have her on the field. And I've also found, because she's not GB1 restricted, I have found scenarios where I open up with her as the Vanguard on the turn 2 ride, and then I have like 2 Tile Assaults. Most of the time it'll only be 1 Tile Assault, but if it is 2 Tile Assaults in the rare occasion where that does actually happen, and then you have a booster behind her and then 1 behind this guy, you can swing and basically pressure the Vanguard so much. You can get like 2 attacks with 1, and then another, and then 4 with the Vanguard boost, and then he's also standing too, so you can potentially do rushes like that and just pressure them with her on hit effect, because most people don't want to guard the Vanguard early game. It still applies. So 3 copies is enough. You can run like 1 or 2 or none if you don't want to run her at all. I always actually used to run her with tetra-drive back in Break Ride era. So I just never really took her out. I just kind of like left her in there and didn't bother to swap her. But yeah, Tier 9 Valeria, in my opinion, works best with the blue waves compared to Maelstrom and the others, because just because of the attack order mainly. Because the Vanguard swings 2nd, she can swing 4th. So same thing if in decks that have the Vanguard swing 3rd, she can swing 4th. So yeah, that's the grade 2s. For grade 1s, 4 Perfect Guards. So the original Perfect Guard, Emerald Shield, Pashel. Mainly because this is the only extra one I have. And then 4 of this new guy, Blue Wave Soldier, Bright Shooter. So this guy has a 4th wave ability at the end of the battle that he boosted. Usually he will boost Valeria, or the Vanguard. So Valeria or the Vanguard usually is where he'll be. Or sometimes he can also boost this guy, or even Tile Assault. It doesn't matter, but usually I like to put him behind Valeria and 1 behind the Vanguard. Sometimes. Most of the time I won't put him behind the Vanguard because there's a better card that can go behind the Vanguard, but it just depends on how I set up the field early game. But what he does is, at the end of the battle that he boosts, if your Vanguard is blue wave, you can choose a grade 3 from the drop zone and put it in the hand. So he essentially is kind of like a pseudo stride fodder or a stride enabler for the deck, because he helps recycle grade 3s that go in the drop zone. So that's what I like about him. That way I don't have to run stride fodder, although stride fodder is technically more, it's better because it guarantees you to be able to stride, whereas you kind of have to stride first with a grade 3, you throw a grade 3 first, and then you try to recycle it later. So, but once you have that set up, it works out just fine. So 4 of him, just to maximize that. And then 2 Dispatch Mission Seagull Soldier. This is a really interesting card, and because of this card I don't run that one guy that Soul Blasts and gains 10k, High Tide Sniper. No wait, yeah, High Tide Sniper, I think that's his name. I run Valeria over him because of the retire pressure, and because this guy uses the Soul Blast, and there isn't really a lot of ways to fill the soul for this deck aside from the draw trigger. But what this guy does, he works amazingly with this card. So I'm running 2 Seagull Soldier and 2 Stacia. Stacia's been around for a while. Everybody should know what she does. Anyone that's played Aqua Force or played against her should know what she does, because pretty much you'll see her in almost every Aqua Force deck with at least 2 copies. I would consider 2 copies of her the minimum, otherwise there's no point in running her. 3 is good, 4 is really good, but because of all the new cards, I'm testing out a lot of the new Aqua Force cards, so I'm only running 2 of her in here for right now. And what this guy does is he Soul Blasts when he's placed on R, and he can choose a rear guard and give it 3k. So usually you can give her 3k if you have GB1, so she can swing for 12 at the Vanguard from the back row. So that's just really good. And then he will boost something like Valeria or Tidal Assault at the end. If on the 4th, usually he will boost Valeria and then he'll return. So things like that. It's just some silly combos that they have. I like it because it can dodge Link Joker and Kagero without having to use resist, and it opens up the circle, kind of like with Murakumo, so you can call something else to regard later if you need to, if you have something better. And then the only other grade 1 I'm running, I am actually trying out Battle Siren Chloris. I noticed in a lot of other Aqua Force decks that I've seen, no one really is using this card. Usually what I'll see is like 3 Stacia and 3 Seagull Soldier, or 4 Stacia and 2 Seagull Soldier, or some variant of that. I am trying Chloris out because she's actually surprisingly good against the new Narukami. So, against removing from play or banishing decks, she's kind of like a super anti that type of playstyle, because, like, for example, Vortex Dragon, or whatever that dragon is, that lightning dragon that they have that banishes stuff from the drop zone, and then Vanquisher will do the same thing. She can use those banished cards as Guardian Circle fodder. That's just the easiest way to put it. So very anti-Narukami. Very interesting card, because it does actually help you. It does help the defensive capabilities to protect your rear guards. I think that's what they were going for with this card. But otherwise, I don't know. Like, I've been trying her out. I haven't really used her effect all that much, so I may actually just drop her out of the deck at some point and just bump Stacia back up to 4, or put in one more and put one more Seagull Soldier, because I found those two to be a lot more useful. I'm just trying out 2/2/2 of each, just to see if I can learn any weird plays. So that's it for the grade 1s. And for the trigger lineup, it's the 4 Malika, because to help Stacia and fill the soul for the Seagull Soldier. And then 4 Brutal Trooper. I mean, she also works well with Tidal Assault. It's pretty self-explanatory. And then 4 of this new Blue Wave Soldier Brutal Trooper. He's really good. Just helping you recycle a critical trigger to draw a card. So he has the main phase effect of putting him back to the deck. Then when the Vanguard attacks, it's Blue Wave, it gets to draw a card on the second attack, on the second wave. So, pretty decent. 1 Sonic Soldier, because that's my 5th Sonic Soldier. For some reason I only have 5 of those. And then 3 other criticals. So 4 draw, 8 critical, and 4 heal. And then the starter is Blue Wave Dragon, Dagger, Master Draco Kid. I think this is a pretty decent starter. It's not, for some reason I don't find it that great. I might actually take it out and put in a Bubble Draco Kid, the one that actually goes with this guy, because I don't like the GB1, and unless, I mean, the starter in my opinion has to have a really good GB1 effect to justify using it. His is okay, but I just feel like, I don't know, I find this dying a lot early game. But I don't know. For now, I'll just keep it for now. But I may actually take it out at some point. But it's a pretty decent one. I don't like that it uses Counterblast. But then again, so far, the deck overall, only 2 of the cards, of the main cards, use a lot of Counterblast. And tetra-drive normally is not the Vanguard that you're going to be on most games. So that's not too big of a deal. For strides, I am running 2 Storm Dominator Commander Thavas. He's in here because he can actually do pretty good as a second stride, but I'll almost never use him. So it would be better if this was Lambros, but I only have 2 Lambros, so 2 Lambros. And I found Lambros seems to be better as the first stride, but sometimes I don't know. It depends on how my field's set up. But so anyway, those 2 guys, and 4 Tetra Boil. Actually, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna run this guy in here anymore. You can run him in here if you want. The main focus of the deck, though, is a stride into Tetra Boil. Tetra Boil is your main thing. He's not too hard to obtain, actually. So compared to Lambros, he's a lot easier to get. So I would say if you have these guys like Lambros and this guy, you can just run it like that. But I feel like probably the better setup would be one Titlebore and then one Aristotle. Mainly because Aristotle has that retire power, so it depends on in what matchup you're up against. He kills Laurel really easily, so. And then Titlebore is just a pretty decent first stride because of that on-hit pressure. And then, yeah, so I think this is probably the more ideal setup for the stride deck. But you can run the Voss in here if you want. He's not the Voss restricted, so that's what's nice about him. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below on the card choices. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.